Welcome to this episode of Founders Files. We are your hosts, Marissa and Heidi, and our guest today is Glenn Bowens.
Welcome, Glenn. Thank you for joining us today on this podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Could you give us a quick introduction about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Glenn. Born and raised in the Netherlands. I graduated, already quite some time ago from Maastricht University. I studied marketing and finance, or marketing finance, I have to say. After that, started working in corporate life. So I started my career at Vodafone. After a few years, I switched to a completely different industry, to the petrochemical industry. Worked as a global marketing analyst, global pricing manager after a few years, and eventually went to a MEA sales coordinator role. But at some point, I realized that the corporate world wasn't for me. Main reason being that you're always this tiny wheel in this giant organization. And at that point, I decided I wanted to do something different with my life. That different was actually switching to education. Not traditional education, but we're not going to talk about that. But it actually also gave me the opportunity to explore something new, which was entrepreneurship. So outside my role as being a coach at Zuid University, I'm also an entrepreneur together with one of my partners. And what we actually, in a nutshell, try to do is to make technology accessible to everyone. So if you look at the past few years, there's a lot going on, right? So think about blockchain, think about AI. But how can you then actually integrate that within your organization? And that's actually what we're trying to bring to organizations. In a nutshell.
Okay. And what was the most challenging part of taking the first steps in building a business?
Getting started, I would say. So really just doing it. Going to the Chamber of Commerce, building a website, but also getting the ideas. Because, of course, there are a lot of things that you can do and that are available. But at some point, I think you also have to just make a decision. Okay, this is the direction that we think we should go. And what I realized actually over the past, 2 years, is that those directions very quickly can change when you're talking to other entrepreneurs, when you're talking to businesses. But getting back to your question, so really just taking a leap, that was actually the most challenging.
What were your finances like when you started your journey as an entrepreneur?
Could you elaborate on that? So
some people want to start a business, but they don't have any finances.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe for AI, it's a bit different. You don't need as much.
Yeah.
Because you don't actually have to build a product.
Correct. So that was my advantage, actually. So I'm a huge fan of skill stacking. So using the skills that you have and see how you can combine them and turn them into an actual business. And that's actually something I did. So that actually didn't cost me that much money. So it's indeed going to the Chamber of Commerce, getting a website. But yeah, in the end, that's maybe a few €100. So that's fine. If we're talking about actually creating a product, of course, that's a different story, but that's not applicable to me.
What would you say is the most important skill or mindset for someone who's starting a business?
Those are two things, right? So with skills, I would say indeed use skill stacking.
Mm-hmm.
So meaning you don't have to be the best at a certain skill. Right? So you don't have to be the best painter in the world to actually sell most paintings. So if you can combine your painting skills with sales skills, with marketing skills, that's much more valuable than actually being the best painter who cannot sell his own product, right? Mm-hmm. So that was one. Sorry, and the other one was
mindset.
Mindset. What I realized is that you have to be able to adapt quickly. And also don't be afraid to actually talk to people. So at first I thought, okay, this is an idea and it will sell itself. right? But it really doesn't work like that. You really should reach out to people, go have a conversation with them, see if the product that you're actually trying to build is actually valuable to them. And I realized that relationships, especially if you're looking at small, medium enterprises, are very important. They have to see you, they have to trust you. So I think networking is, talking about skills, networking is a very, very important skill to have.
Okay.
Would you have done anything differently when you first started out as an entrepreneur?
Oh yeah, definitely. First thing, actually, I would have started much earlier in my career, especially when you look at when you just graduated from university or University of Applied Science. There's really no risk to it, right? So maybe there's a little financial risk, but outside of that, there's actually little risk that you need to take. So that will actually be the first one. So if you really want to become an entrepreneur, if you really want to build your own business, start during your studies or directly after. Because what I realized is once you get a house, a dog, whatever, there are some financial consequences to that. And that makes taking a leap actually more difficult, I would say. Outside of that, I would say try to build a network around you of people who you can trust, and people who have different skills than you have. My partner at NDM Academy is actually he's a terrific networker. So put him in a place with some people, and within a few minutes you will probably know everybody around there. That's a skill that I'm honestly lacking. Not that I cannot do it, but it's more of a threshold, I would say. So I really think if you can combine certain skills, certain personalities, that you can grow much further and much faster.
Did you ever start a company that didn't succeed?
Not to that extent. But I did try a few things before actually things were starting to take off. So yeah, that's something we can discuss.
Yeah, sure.
That's always interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So one thing that's maybe fun to elaborate on. I'm a huge fan of new technologies, and then especially with my background, combining them with marketing, finance, data. And a couple of years ago, actually, I discovered blockchain, and of course, I think you've heard about NFTs. Okay, so very expensive images, at least to the majority of people. But if you actually start to get into, okay, what does it actually mean for a company, then it can actually become quite interesting if you think from a marketing perspective. So I thought, okay, let's give that a shot. So see if companies are actually interested in using NFTs for their marketing endeavors. Unfortunately, talking about failures, companies, especially in the small, medium enterprise, didn't understand it. They weren't interested in it. They thought it was a scam. So I tried that for a couple of months. And at some point I realized, okay, this is really not the time for me to continue with this. So maybe in a later time, and especially now things are heating up again. So hopefully people are getting more interested in it. But that's actually a failure in the sense that the product was launched too soon, or the market wasn't ready for it. But again, these are knowledge skills, so there was no huge investment or whatever. So in that sense, it was just trial and error, I would say.
Trying to be persistent with your company, but when did you recognize that it just wasn't working out, the company or the idea for the company?
At what point did you decide, okay, we'll try it later on again, this isn't the moment? And because
I actually cannot pinpoint when the exact moment was. However, I think quitting at a certain point is a very important skill to have. Right? We're always talking about perseverance, and I'm definitely a huge fan of that. But at some point, you also have to realize, okay, the energy that I'm putting in, is it actually at this point worth it? Does it give me energy? And if it actually drains energy, and I think that's a very important point. At the moment that it's going to start drain energy, just stop it. Doesn't mean with everything that you're doing, right? You have to look at it from the big picture. So filling out my tax form, that's actually draining my energy. But looking at the big picture is really just part of it, right? But yeah, I would say knowing when to stop, or feeling when you need to stop, that's actually a very important point.
Okay. And is there an advice you give young entrepreneurs who are trying to start a business? Is there one main advice you have?
First of all, just do it and fail fast. It's better to actually just start your business, start trying things, learn from it, and then if it doesn't work, use those skills that you've gained and that experience and try to apply it to something else that you're going to try. And it can be something very minor, right? So maybe if you want to explore it, start with dropshipping. So what does it mean? What does it entail? What do I need to do? What do I need to think about? And if that doesn't work, okay, use those experiences and apply to something else.
We're going more into you and your company.
Perfect.
So you are the co-founder of MDM company, Academy, if I say that correctly.
Correct.
And you help people in the business world to learn about AI. How do you think AI tools are changing traditional business strategies?
If we look at the past 25 to 30 years, people or the world actually changed, right? So you had these Excel spreadsheets, you had PowerPoints, Word, and there was actually a promise back then, like we would have too much time, we wouldn't know what to do with our time. But then reality kicks in, and we're in 2024, and we're really lacking time. So if you really look at the business, there was never a time before when people had to do so many analysis to create so many PowerPoints, present those PowerPoints to a manager, get back to the drawing table, and start all over again. And these things that we're doing, in the end, they will add value to the company. But let's be honest, nobody just wants to shuffle digits every day and create PowerPoints, and that's really more the draining work, right? What I do think is that if you look at these kind of things that are main part of an organization, that will change by the introduction of AI. Because if you want to conduct an analysis, for example, okay, why should I spend 40 hours on it, whereas I can also do it in 10 minutes? So you can use that additional time to add value to your company, add value to a country, to your community, I would say. So in that sense, I really think and hope that the world is going to change, the business world.
You also teach and coach at Site University. Do you have any success stories from students or mentees who have implemented AI?
Well, I think a success story is actually students using AI. And we always see education in this from this traditional point of view, right? So you need to read a book and you need to make a test and then you get a grade, and that grade determines how good you are, right? And this is all linked to the lecturers and the knowledge that they have. What you see now, for example, with the introduction of ChatGPT, all the knowledge is out there. And okay, I do need to admit, maybe it's not 100%, but let's say it's 80 or 90%. Then you can still learn a lot from it. you can have an interaction, you can have a discussion with ChatGPT. So I think the way of learning is really changing. And what I find very cool is that if students come to me and say, hey, Glenn, I've tried this with ChatGPT, this is what came out of it, I dove into it, I critically looked at it, I compared it to something else. Okay, this really doesn't make 100% sense, but I can apply it in X, Y, and Z. So really just applying the tools that are out there. And I think that is also important for the future, because we're not going to stop the world. We're not going to stop the development which is happening. So I really also encourage students to embrace the new technologies and start working with it. And so I think that's a success in itself.
Yeah.
You were mentioning AI and learning as a student. Do you think AI is going to make a big impact on, business education?
I do think so. And what I just mentioned is that so traditionally we're learning from books, right? And you're still students yourself, so I don't know when was the last time that you actually took a marketing or finance book. Maybe already a while ago, I guess. But that's the world nowadays. That's changing, and I think as an educational institute, you have to embrace that change. It's in human nature to actually be reluctant of change, to actually put some resistance to it. But I do think educational business, or business education, I have to say, is going to change and need to change, because what is more valuable in the future? Because ChatGPT will have all the answers, or whatever AI tool is out there, right? So is knowledge, book knowledge, more important, or is it more important to actually have specific skills like networking, analytical skills, critical thinking, working together? So more the human side of skills, I would say. And I think more and more educational institutes are realizing that and also putting more focus on these kind of skills.
If I can look into the human side,
Sure.
What do you think of the ethics around AI, the ethical dilemma?
Very good question. So it depends on your framework, of course, and what I actually think about, and that actually also honestly scares me a little bit, if you see how real AI videos are and how real AI voices are. So from that point of view, it can become very easy to actually scam people, right? So if you have a few seconds of my voice and you can actually clone it, okay, what will it do to people if you were a scammer, you would use my voice with people that I know, right? So I think really there is the ethical threshold.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, that's not something we as individuals can change. So I really think that for the large organizations, they really have a responsibility in using it well, because it can actually bring benefits to the people, to the world. I truly believe that. However, once the genie is out of the bottle, it's very hard to contain it. And how that's going to change, I don't know. And that's only something time will tell. But I do think especially large corporations need to take the responsibility there and step up and put those ethical boundaries there.
Okay.
And regarding the ethics, the job displacement of AI, do you think there will be many opportunities for new jobs, or do you think, okay, the people that don't have the money to educate themselves won't really have these opportunities, because you have to work with AI, you have to have the knowledge about AI.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't have the option to educate yourself, how are you going to learn about AI?
Yeah, good question. So we this was the same case as I explained before, like 25 to 30 years ago, and more and more jobs were created, right? So I also think that there is an opportunity for AI there, but roles will definitely shift, right? Whereas now, for example, if you're a business analyst, a lot of the things that you're doing is actually diving into the figures, see if everything matches. And that takes a lot of time. However, if you can let AI do that, then that complete part will vanish. It's more about understanding what is happening and then also communicating the story. So I do think roles will change. Sam Altman, the founder of OpenAI, actually mentioned a couple of months ago that we would actually maybe should start talking about an universal basic income as of ChatGPT 7. And we're now at ChatGPT 4, right? Because so many things will change, so many things will be automized. So if that's really going to be true, if all these jobs that we currently have disappear and no new jobs will be created, then I do indeed think that we have to think in a different economical way of doing things. The question is, how are people then feeling valued for the things that they do, right? So we only need so many nurses or so many people that take care of elderly. So if you're not in that playing field or don't want to be, where do you need to go then? And honestly, I don't have an answer to that. And that's only something time will tell, I guess.
Mentioning new job opportunities, what opportunities do you see in AI for new businesses or entrepreneurs? That's
actually unlimited, right? So it's something that we, for example, do. So creating a certain mindset, training people in how to, at this point in time, use it, integrate it into your business. That's also developing new tools which weren't out there before. Also for the film industry or whatever, this is already changing a lot of things. But I do think that the chances are actually unlimited. It's really just getting started if you look at the past few years and where we're now. So I don't know actually what will happen to future jobs and how that will evolve.
Big question mark.
Yeah, definitely.
For entrepreneurs without a strong tech background, integrating AI can seem overwhelming. What practical advice do you have who want to implement AI, especially with, for example, newer businesses but made by people who are a little bit older, who are not from this generation?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any advice for them?
Yeah, sure. Start small. Start trying to understand what it is that it can do. And what we usually see, because let's talk about ChatGPT, because everybody knows ChatGPT nowadays, right? You have different types of people, and what we see quite often is that people have a certain expectation. I asked something to ChatGPT and it should give me the perfect answer right away. But that's not actually how it works. You have to ask a question a certain way, prompt in a certain way. You have to play around with it. And for those people, I would really want to say, just give it a shot, and not just for one day, but try it out over a certain period of time, like 2 months, 3 months, and see how it evolves, see how it helps you in defining your business. And once you've done that, take the next step. Take a different process, take a different department, and see where you can implement it there, so that in the end you will have more time spare to actually focus on the important side of business. But really, give it a shot. And also there's so much information out there. If you talk about Udemy, about YouTube, or whatever, if you don't understand something, just look it up and see how you can add it to your business.
How do you envision the future of blockchain technology, and what role do you see yourself playing in this development?
Yeah, I'm thinking about which angle I'm going to take. Right. So there's of course the financial aspect to it. I don't think that's something we should be discussing now. But from a marketing perspective, it's very interesting because it's NFTs, for example, really open new doors to new ways of conducting marketing to create a community around your brand, and also to generate new income streams because. Looking at blockchain technology, NFTs, this is an income stream or this is a way of generating revenue that we've never seen before. So that's definitely very interesting. If we think about what we just discussed about AI, it's very hard to distinguish what is real and what isn't real, right? So if you would combine that with blockchain technology, so making sure that something which is real is actually added to the blockchain so that everybody can verify, hey, this is actually real and this is fake, I think there's a very good opportunity there for blockchain. And the momentum is there. So the momentum of AI was already there. There's some momentum regarding blockchain, right? Because it's really picking up over the past few years. So I really do hope that companies are actually interested in trying to combine these two aspects, AI and blockchain, and see how we, in the end, can create a world where maybe, unfortunately, we do need to verify everything, but that we can actually distinguish between what is real and what is fake.
Do you have any advice for individuals who are aspiring to go into the blockchain industry and they're completely new?
Start with understanding the basics, and then basics outside of Bitcoin, outside of getting rich quick. Because unfortunately, people still see crypto as an opportunity to become rich overnight. I don't truly believe in that, but I do think it's a very interesting technology. So try to look further than just meme coins or getting rich overnight or all these kind of things that don't add value. So try to understand, again, if you combine it with marketing, supply chain, finance, what does it mean? And how can I actually create a business around that, a business that actually adds value to your community?
And lastly, our last question.
Maybe the most important one for us.
Yes, this will be the title of this episode. What is a motivational quote that you use to inspire yourself or new entrepreneurs or maybe your colleagues?
Inspirational quote. I cannot think of a quote immediately, but what I do want to stress is that skill stacking is very, very important. So don't rely on one thing that you know, one thing that you do well, but try to combine it with other skills that you have or people in your surroundings have, and try to combine them and build from there.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Glenn.
Thank you, everybody, for listening to Founders Files. We'll hope you'll be back for the next episode. Have a nice day.